on a date with her and then she didn't even acknowledge your existence. What the f are we talking about? How much more disrespect are you gonna take to your face? Because what you want to avoid is you want to avoid a situation where there's 6 other NPCs present at the pool game that you're not interested in. Yes, it would be rude not to respond, but you're not responding. You're just responding on your own time. What are you, her fucking assistant? It's like clear expectations. With all of you guys, we're like 24 hours, boom, and you get a response. If it's after that, then you can ask. Don't ask ever for a question, don't ask for a post to be approved ever before 24 hours. It's gonna get approved, you know? It's expectation management, right? And it's, with women, it's like, you're gonna respond to her exactly when you want to. That's even just the fact that you feel pressure to respond. Obviously, it wants to be reasonable, but you're a busy man. You're here right now. You're gonna respond as soon as you reasonably can. It's not about playing games. This is not about, yeah, you roughly want to match to the response time, fair enough. But whether you respond, sometimes in normal life, how is it? If a friend texts me, sometimes I'm going to respond immediately after 10 seconds. Sometimes I might take a couple of days and anything in between. It really depends on where I'm at. But nobody gets to dictate when I respond. Other than like with you guys, there's a 24-hour SLA for expectation management. Most problems happen because of a mismanagement of expectations. I really gauge it off the vibe of the guy. And it really depends on my mood. Sometimes I might be like, yo, what's up? I look at him really aggressively in a really German way, be like, yo, what's up? And then just back to her, you know? Sometimes I'm gonna be super nice and be like, hey, what's up? It really depends on my mood. I'll always be respectful, but it really depends on who and what the guy is. If the guy is a nice, normal person, a nice dude, like if he's a kind person, I'll be like, hey, what's going on? Then I can just respect him on eye level because he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. If I get any sense of weirdness from the guy, he's gonna get pure coldness. I'm like, yo, what's up? I might even just, hey, what's up? I might even just completely ignore him. I might just be like, go, fist bump, boom. But it depends. It depends on my mood. Really, that's really what I pay. My mood and mainly how the guy reacts, how he is. If I'm getting a warm, nice, kind vibe, that's exactly how he's gonna get it back. If I'm getting the slightest sense of weirdness, fuck that guy. If you were within 5 or 10 meters, it would have been weird not to say hi, you know? So you can very validly make 2 points. Because if you're 40, 50 meters away, it'd be weird to walk up. If you're within like 10, 20 meters and it's kind of like you're already there and we've been speaking before and we've had like interactions, it'd be weird not to just at least say hi in a normal way. If she's kind of like there, be like, oh, pretend to not see it. So no, block her. It'll be very good for your self-esteem. Bro, are you fucking kidding me? Do you think I'm not gonna ignore the person and just speak to their dog? I would recommend the latter. No, the first not. You don't want to insult her. You don't want to do that. But the level of disrespect is unbearable and it's fucking with your self-esteem right in this moment. And setting a boundary will elevate your self-esteem straight away. Because it pissed you off, you just didn't acknowledge, you didn't even allow yourself to feel the anger. I'm not saying that you should operate from anger. But what is anger? Anger is a competence that signals that you have certain needs that aren't being met. The need for respect. Common human decency in an interaction. Anger is a signal that I need to consciously allow myself to recognize that this person isn't right for me. And this is a perfect example of you learning to be okay with bearing a little bit of tension. You're worried, oh, I'm going to see her in the park again and she might not like me. What impact is it going to have on your life? This is a great lesson. You should be grateful. You should thank the heavens that they've bestowed your life has bestowed you with this opportunity to set boundaries. Bro, you went on a date with her and then she didn't even acknowledge your existence. What the fuck are we talking about? How much more disrespect are you going to take to your face? And these are exactly the types of habits you will establish that'll drive men into depression 7 years later. Where you end up a shell of yourself in a relationship because you let her treat you like a piece of shit from the second day onwards. Because you didn't set the boundaries. Because you tolerate these very subtle levels of disrespect. That's what fucks people up. So congratulations on making a step in the right direction. No, stay in character, stay in character. Say what you think she's going to say. No, I think it's fine. Look, I wish you all the best. I think you're a good person, but I think your behavior was disrespectful and I don't think we have much left to talk about. Look, wish you all the best. And then you walk away. I'm not insulting her. I'm not invading her space. I'm just choosing not to communicate with a person who doesn't align with my values. And the alternative to that is being disrespectful by being fake. And I don't want to be fake. This is why just be yourself is so simplified. Because right now you're just being yourself, but just being yourself requires us going through 70 situations like this of you being more raw and honest. You just need to become more comfortable, and you will. It's a process of being able to bear tension. To bear tension to be able to tolerate tension. When I see her, obviously there's a little bit of tension for sure, because it's not like I feel nothing, because like I liked her as a person, and there's nice things about her, but at some point you just gotta cut the people. And the faster you disqualify the wrong people, the sooner you're left with the better ones. Most people have mediocre relationships with women and also men. Most men have average relationships. They don't have good friendships. Most men have very mediocre friendships to men. Not really brothers. I was like, okay, you're friends. Okay, would you give them your credit card? Would you trust them blindly with everything you have? No. Okay, if you died, would they take care of your children? Oh, well, that's not a real friend then. It may become a friend because if you only know that person for 6 months or a year, fair enough, so they're still becoming. But if you want to be truly happy and have people in your life who ultimately have your back, who you trust 100%. My uncle said one of the wisest things ever. He says, everybody has a spot on their ass, referring to a character flaw. The only question you have to ask yourself is that spot something that I can live with or not? In my language, that is that a deal breaker or not? Nobody's going to be perfect. But you have to be completely crystal clear on what your deal breakers are in a relationship. And if you speak to me and then you ignore me in public because there's some dude who's trying to dick you down and you have the audacity to disrespect me to my face by ignoring me and only talking to my dog, I mean, I appreciate that you talk to my dog, that's fine, but you ignore me to my face because another guy's there, feel the anger, realize, okay, act, and then there's no more anger once you've set the boundary. Once you've done what needed to be done, did you ever realize that anger is only there until you've actually done what you needed to do to stand up for yourself? Anger is oftentimes just a signal to do that. Now, you shouldn't act out of the anger, should be calm and collected, 100%, but let the anger serve as a signal. And you will become way more real, way more once you acknowledge these things and see them for what they are. And then you set boundaries. You only need to set boundaries with people that you want to have an ongoing relationship with. If you know you're never going to see her again after this date, if you know that person won't be in your life anymore, you can just 48 law of power that person. Strategies of war. You can just use them as a pawn on a chessboard and just be like, okay, cool. Be friendly temporarily for 24, 48, 72 hours and then never speak to them ever again. If they continue to be part of my life in some way, shape or form on a recurring basis, yes, I have to set boundaries. If I know it's only going to be 24 hours in whatever shape or form that they'll be present within my sphere of consciousness, so to speak, well, just let them be there. Okay, done. They're dead to me, and that's it. So most of those you probably won't have to. But if these are people that you want to have a real relationship with, you need to speak all those things. Having those hard conversations will make the relationships you have way more real, way more honest. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go there in an accusatory fashion, because we all make mistakes. But in the moment, speak it, because at some point it will become fake. And it'll eat away at our self-esteem. And one of the best things we can do with our self-esteem is address the elephant in the room immediately. You've realized that was something that pisses me off in these calls, I'd address it immediately. But I do that because I don't want to be passive-aggressive. Everybody who's passive-aggressive just hasn't communicated something that pissed them off. I think the real true scientifically backed statement is more so that women are more agreeable than men. And being agreeable sometimes means... Because I was like, when you said that, I was like, why is there something in me that rebels against that a little bit? I've never thought about it like this, but I would say in order to be agreeable with anybody, you have to either ignore or at least accept truth that you don't like. Because everybody has flaws. The question is that a deal breaker of mine or not? Sometimes people are going to say something where you're like, okay, I'm going to let it go. You got to be good at letting things go. Because some people don't let things go. But you don't want to let the wrong things go. If something really bugs you, say, hey, what you did there, that wasn't cool. That really wasn't. In business, with friends, with women, with any type of relationship. If you ever have something that pisses you off, formulate it in the following way. Description, as objectively as possible. Need, feelings, specific, request. That's the formula. I'll give you an example. So let's say you interrupt me while I'm talking. Let's say you do that several times. I could be like, you fucking piece of shit. No, that wouldn't be good. So what I would say is, you've interrupted me 4 times in the last 30 minutes. Objective statement, okay? I'm not saying, you've tried to dominate the conversation. That's an interpretation. Try to not interpret, but be very objective and accurate without interpretation and meaning bestowed upon it. You interrupted me 4 times in the last half an hour. I have a need to be able to finish my sentences, because otherwise I feel pissed off, feel angry. Doesn't make me feel good. In the future, please let me finish my sentences. If I were to say that like that, could you have any problem with that? No, pretty fair. It's not accusatory at all. And the same formula is For example, something Fernanda might do with me. She'd say, David, we had plans for Saturday evening. You changed the plans last minute. She doesn't say it like that, but she could then continue with the whole thing and say, so we had plans for Saturday evening. You changed the plans, even last minute is a bit of an interpretation, 2 hours before you changed the plans, even though I was preparing for that the whole day. For me, it's important to be able to plan myself. You can say, I have a need for. For me, it's important. You can replace it with that. You don't have to be so dogmatic with the language. For me, it's important to be able to plan my evenings, because if we can't do that, then I would like to do something else. So I felt a little bit sad, and then I was without a plan as well. So I had to reorganize myself. So in the future, if you have to reorganize, please stick with a plan, or just please cancel beforehand. Nobody can say anything about that, because there's no excuse. You keep changing. No, that formula, right? Objective description. What's your need? What's your feelings? What's your specific request? Because the last component is something most people leave out. They blame, but they don't have a specific request. If you criticize something about somebody, finish with a specific request. So in the future, if you could do that, please, that would be important for me. Is that okay? Could you do that? Thank you. Because then they'll know exactly what they need. The best conflict resolution is to address it instantaneously and immediately, and not 2.5 weeks later. Fernanda's amazing at that. If I piss her off, I usually find out about it 2.5 weeks later. Right, babe? She goes, hee hee, in the kitchen, hee hee. Now, the best thing is to address things instantaneously. And she's gotten good at that. Saying like, you know what, that wasn't cool, you know? And I'm like, oh, great. And that's very, very important, you know, to be able to do that. That discomfort that you're feeling, you need to go through that. I used to be so uncomfortable with all types of conflict, because I used to be very agreeable, but I realized you're not helping anybody. You're not real, you're not raw. Literally just taking that filter between your thought and your mouth out. Not completely, but more so. Something pisses you off, say it immediately. Now, there are people who are dicks about it, and you can do so in an asshole-ish way. But that ain't your challenge. Somebody else has the challenge that they need to have more empathy. They need to be smoother. They need to be kinder in their communication. You need to be more raw and be like, don't do that. That's not okay. Boom. And when you do that 17 more times, you realize your balls get 300 grams heavier. Like, sincerely, you feel like, boom. You walk around differently. It has an impact. You carry yourself completely differently. But you have to ask yourself, okay, who are 1 or 2 people in my life that I currently have a relationship with where the benefit would greatly benefit from me addressing this? Because if I don't address this, in 5 years, I'll harbor resentment. That can be family members or friends. Because if there's anything that still pops to your mind after a certain amount of time, it means you haven't resolved it and you need to address it. In the future, address the elephant in the room instantaneously. That's the best form of conflict resolution. And do it in a calm way. As you can realize, when I go rah, 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 that's when it's motivating. But when there's actually a conflict situation, then you need to be really calm about it. Very important. Rarely, but sometimes you will become friends with a guy who's kind of trying to hit on the same girl as you because you realize the relationship with him is more important than this random girl. Really, really interesting. Be very open-minded to this. This may happen, statistically will happen to some of you over the next couple of months, where if you're at a party or something and you realize you both are interested in the same girl and you're kind of like, let the other guy have her. Unless you're like, this is gonna be my wife, don't be needy. Be like, hey, cool, yeah, bro. If you realize this is a really awesome guy who's interested in win-win, let the other guy have her, and then you might have a relationship. So it's important that if a man introduces you to another woman, assume that's his girl. Unless he introduces you to 10 girls at the same time, be like, hey, you have your pick. If a man introduces you to another woman, you immediately hold back. You're just like, hey, cool, hey, what's up? Okay, so how many women did he introduce you to? So what I would do with my friends, like, yo, which one of them are you like yours? Am I gonna say, you gotta ask him, right? Be like, yo, pull him aside, yo, 2 seconds. Tell me which one are okay to go for, which one not. Boom, clarity, expectation management, and then there's no issue, you know? Because we as men, but we need to be taught these rules where, rules of engagement. Where if a man introduces you to another woman, ask him, so what's the story here? Boop. He should tell you ideally beforehand, it's a bit weird. But if he introduces you to a bunch of different girls, be like, hey, yo, real quick, which one is yours? Which one do you want? Which one are free? Boom, cool. And then you just go for them. Simple, solved. Because then that situation will be completely avoidable in the future. First of all, you gotta create artificial pressure. You gotta make home not so comfortable. That's one. And the way you do that is by mentally engineering evolutionary pressure that isn't resting upon your shoulders right now. There's 2 things. One, in German we have a saying that's called der Appetit kommt beim Essen, which means the appetite comes when you're eating. When you're actually in the flow of it and you have a beautiful woman sitting in front of you, trust me, you'll be motivated. Because your biology, because this part of the brain is going to override this part of the brain. Because it's older and stronger and more wired. Literally just shut the brain off, shut the prefrontal cortex off, just do it. And once you actually have a beautiful woman who wants to meet with you, you're like, guess I'm going. Don't worry, it'll happen, okay? It'll happen. Biology will naturally, look, I could be at home, jerk myself to sleep, or this attractive lady. It's really just like, once you get a couple of options of women that you're actually excited about meeting, you're like, whoa, that's cool. So the appetite comes when you're eating, that's one. Second of all, it's about mentally creating pain, associating pain with being at home. And not too much to the extent that you have to feel like you can't relax at home anymore, but really understand what it means to be at home. What is it costing you to stay at home? What's the pain you've experienced in the past, in the present, and you will experience in the future because you're not going out there and you're taking action? Now, on a Tuesday evening, if you want to stay at home for 2 hours and relax after a long day of work, nobody says a word against that. That's absolute vital recovery time. On a Friday or Saturday night, that time's absolutely sacred and you'd be a bitch to stay at home then. Not tolerated, not okay. Because who am I? Am I the guy who does things that are easy, or am I the guy who does things that are right? I've committed myself to this, I'm gonna get the fuck out there. If I'm at home, now, if I'm so wrecked that I need a rest evening, no, that's not what we're talking about. Yeah. But if I'm somewhat able to walk, to stumble out the door, and I might have a green tea, and then go out and socialize in a bar, if I'm somewhat able to do that, I'm gonna go and do that. Because if I don't do that, then I'm a little bitch of a man who does what's easy but not what's right. And what's that going to lead to in 6 months and 12 months? Am I going to do what's easy, or am I going to do what's right? Who am I? Ultimate pain comes from not being true to who you believe you are. And once you understand what must people never say about me, what are values I stand for, and if you can associate the opposite of those values with staying at home, you're naturally going to do it. You'll automatically do it. If me doing the easy thing is something that I'd never be okay with, well then, and I understand that being at home is the easy thing, it's not the right thing, well then I'm gonna go and do it. If it's me giving into fear, I wouldn't tolerate that. What is a value that you've always associated with in your life, and then what's the opposite of that, and then associate that with staying at home, and you will naturally go. Then it is not willpower. Willpower will burn out. But if you have that association, have you ever had a drink of some type of alcohol, some type of drink where you drank too much of it, you got sick and you couldn't have that particular drink for a long time? Or food? Have you ever had that with a specific type of food or drink or anything? If you want to win in life, it's not about willpower. Yes, willpower on a general basis, but towards a particular activity, if you always have to force yourself to not do something, you're running on willpower, which will eventually burn out. Push will wear you out. Pull is gonna last forever. If your association to something is a negative, if your association to something is more pain than pleasure, you will naturally not do it. If you associate more pain with staying at home than pleasure, you will leave. If you associate more pleasure with being at home than pain, on a Friday or Saturday, not every day, you'll stay or leave, depends, you know? If I associate a lot of pleasure and very little pain with being at home, fuck it, I'm gonna stay. But if it's the ultimate pain because I'm being a bitch and everybody will be ashamed of me and my life will become a hell if I don't do the right things, and if I do the wrong thing and the small thing, it will lead to me establishing big things. I'll disappoint myself, I'll disappoint everybody. All of a sudden there's a lot of fucking hell going on right now. I feel a fucking itch to better get the fuck out of there. That's pain. Great fucking motivator. Good. Boom. And then once you're out there, you're actually enjoying it, you're not running on pain anymore, then the appetite comes when you're eating. Okay, no, but let's be careful, because just because girls like to shoot guns, that doesn't necessarily make them masculine. So what else how is her being when she interacts? Is she like, or is she feminine in her being? She's not masculine in that sense, she has a little power behind herself. I see nothing wrong with her, in her vibe. Even the fact that she says, I need you to be masculine, yeah, whether she needs to put that on her hinge or not, you know, she probably shouldn't put that there because it's gonna attract not necessarily the kind of guy that she'll want, you know? Because a guy who's masculine, you need to tell him to be masculine, and if you, it's not gonna help her to put that there. But I see nothing, she seems like a cougar, I see nothing, no red flag, nothing so far. But the important thing to keep in mind is sometimes we're unnecessarily judgmental. And we need to be judgmental to the extent that we judge whether or not she's right for us. But beyond that, we really don't want to judge. Because then it makes the experience of life not too much fun. Because if we judge everything and everybody, we can't love. And it's a bit much to say love, But really, if you want to enjoy life, you got to remind, you're going to meet people who are just utter pieces of shit, where you're going to be at war in a legal way, in a relationship way where you have set boundaries. Yes, that's the reality of a fucking man, for sure. As often as you can, go back to present moment, love. Otherwise, life will be a drag. You have to go back to that. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't, if somebody fucks with you, fuck them up. If somebody tries to fuck with you legally, fuck them up, 100%. But other than that, you cannot, under any circumstances, ever allow yourself to fall into the trap of believing that you live in a hostile universe. Albert Einstein said one of the most important decisions we'll ever make in our life, and we don't just make it once, we make it over and over again, is whether or not we live in a hostile or rather a friendly universe. Most important decision. You will make experiences that will try to dupe you into believing that this is a hostile universe. And whether it is or it isn't is completely up to you and the meaning you give it. But if you keep going back to saying this is an evil world, and whether you just make that conscious or unconscious, you will start embodying more and more negative energy, and where life will feel heavier and heavier. The moments where life has felt beautiful is where you unconsciously, even just temporarily, concluded that this life is beautiful, that people are beautiful. And you're going to meet bad apples, and you learn how to navigate them, for fucking sure, 100%. But when the time is right, and when you're relaxing, boom, go into that state of love. It's very important. And then we don't want to judge. So judge to the extent that you're realizing, oh, these are things that I realize that aren't right for me, that I don't want in my partner. Good. And then I'm not even saying you're judging her necessarily, but we all do it unconsciously at times. Like, okay, let them be. Let them be. And wish them all the best and understand there's something for everybody. There truly is something for everybody. I just see a girl who wants a little bit of love and protection, and if she felt more loved and protected, she'd allow herself to be more feminine. She is right now feeling like she has to fight masculine battles a lot. That's why that side is coming out. If she had somebody protecting her, taking care of her, that feminine side would naturally arise. You know, as long as you're still respectful and kind, you don't need to be smiley all the time. I try to be, and it's a much better way to operate in life most of the time. But sometimes, I walk around with a fucking serious face a lot. I'm oftentimes walking around like, leave me alone, motherfucker. I don't want to talk to certain people. No, you know? And that's perfectly okay. As long as you're not then disrespectful or you're not harming yourself. That looks like you Photoshop yourself and put yourself on a fucking Playboy magazine cover from 2001. So let me tell you something, Doug. There's some people in this world, there's a group of people. You and I'm going to tell you in a second what type of group that people is. You and I'm going to already tell you, we're not part of that group at the moment, okay? That group of the world is people who look good smiling in pictures. You and we don't belong in that group, okay? Even, it's not about the 12 euro. It could be 12 euros or 1,200. I would not take anything from a random person serious that I just met. That's more so the lesson, which is important. The fact that not the fact that you went and bought something, that's totally fine. But whose opinion did you base it on? I think that's more what matters. It sure looks good on you, but that's more by coincidence. Draw from within. It's the same thing as we went back to earlier. It's boundaries. Like, okay, cool, thanks so much. Boom. Like, unless that person has proven authority or loyalty to me, I won't even take their opinion serious. I'll appreciate them as a person. I'll be respectful. I'll be nice, and I'll offer myself to see if a relationship could happen further down the line. But in no way, shape, or form will I take any of their advice serious.